Hey guys, happy Tuesday. So you guys know the drill when we have a video. So here's your warm-up. Make sure you guys set up your notes. So what I want you guys to do is work on essential 2, graph a linear equation. So here we go. Here we have to graph the line. So again, pause the video right here, and then resume in a second. I'll show you guys the process. Alright guys, so here we have it in standard form. What I have to do, of course, is I have to change this to y equals mx plus b. So I have to get rid of that 5x by saying minus 5x. Minus 5x to both sides. Now, of course, these guys cancel out. Don't forget to bring down that negative 5y is equal to negative 5x plus that 10. All right, now I have to get rid of that negative 5 sitting out in front, and I'm multiplying. So the way I get rid of multiplication, right, I have to divide by negative 5. So again, this was a big mistake. A lot of people were dividing by a positive 5. So again, we want to divide by negative 5. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 gives you a 1. 1y, or simply just y, is equal to, what's negative 5 divided by negative 5? Again, it's a 1. In this case, 1x. Positive 10 divided by negative 5 is a negative 2. Now again, let's go ahead and graph this. There's my coordinate plane. So the negative 2 tells me that I have to drop down. So I go down 1, 2. So there's my very first point. That's my y-intercept. That's where that's coming from. Now this is 1 over 1. That's my rise over my run. That's my slope. So I have to climb up 1 and then to the right 1. So that is the second point. All right, so we draw our straight line, and there we have it, essential standard number 2, graphing a linear equation. All right, guys, let's move on here. Subtracting polynomials day 2. So again, make sure you guys copy this title, copy that on the EQ. I noticed, guys, I said, hey, day 2, we're taking this very, very slow. It's essential standard number 4. Adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials is so important. All right, so again, we want to take our time with this. Copy this down. Alright, let's move on to the next slide here. So again, notice the steps to adding polynomials, subtracting, it's the same thing. Adding, subtracting, they work the same way. You want to distribute the outside value, place in standard form. So again, I can say add, I can say subtract, same deal. I want to place it in standard form and then combine like terms at the very end. Alright, let's move on to example 1. Now here's what I want you guys to do. Pause the video here, but I do want you guys to try both of these problems. So try the one on the left and try the one on the right. All right, once you're ready to go, hit play, and I'll show you guys the process. All right, guys, so just like we talked yesterday, I have to subtract the following polynomials, and it works the same way as addition. So here we have this one. I distribute to my binomial in this case. So what's 1 times 5? 5. What's 1 times negative 2x squared? Well, that's just negative 2x squared. Alright, so that was pretty easy, right? Now we have this minus sign. Well, it's really a negative 1 that I have to distribute, so be careful with this. What's negative 1 times x squared? Well, that's going to give us negative x squared. Now what's negative 1 times negative 6? Negative times a negative gives me a positive 6 in this case. Alright, so step 1 is done. Now let's write this in standard form. So I always like to do this. I always like to kind of underline my terms, so I don't accidentally miss one, and I like to cross them off as we go. So standard form says, hey, x squareds go first, right? So again, I'm going to start off with negative 2x squared. Cross that off. Then the minus, there's really a 1 there, so I'm going to say minus 1x squared. Next, we go on to the positive 6. Now, what kind of 5 is that? That's really a positive 5, so I'm going to say plus 5. All right, that's standard form. The last thing I want to do here is I want to combine my like terms. So I see an x squared and an x squared. So I can join these guys and say, hey, negative 2, negative 1. I'm working with the coefficients. Coefficients, again, are numbers in front of the variables. That's going to give me negative 3x squared. The next two like terms are my constants over here. They don't have any variables, so that's what's positive 6 and positive 5. That's going to give me positive 11. All right, guys, that is our final answer. So we subtracted these two binomials, and we got negative 3x squared plus 11. All right, let's scoot over here to the right-hand side. Again, same thing. I have a binomial minus, now in this case, a trinomial. So let's go ahead and get rid of these parentheses. What's 1 times x squared? That's just simply x squared. What's 1 times 6x? That's going to be positive 6x. Now, in this case, right, that negative makes a huge difference here. So again, be careful. This is a negative 1, not just a positive 1. So negative 1 times negative 4x squared is a positive 4x squared. What's negative 1 times negative 4x? Well, that's a positive 4x. Lastly, what's negative 1 times positive 7? That is negative 7. Don't forget to distribute to every single term in there. Every single piece has to get multiplied by that negative 1. All right, so here we go. Same deal. I like to underline my terms, right? Underline, underline, underline. so I don't forget any. Again, I cross off as I go just to keep myself so much more organized. Let's start off with, hey, here's an x squared. Let's start off with that one. Any other x squareds? Yes, I have a 4x, positive 4x squared, so I'll put plus 4x squared. Alright, any more x squares? Nope, so let's move on to the positive 6x. These guys that have x's, and lastly the positive 4x, so that's positive 4x, and my constant minus 7. Alright, let me join these like terms. Let's see, where are my like terms? I have x squared and I have 4x squared. Well, that's a 1x squared and a 4. I'm adding the coefficients. 1 plus the 4 gives me 5, x to the second power. Alright, next set of like terms. My x's here, I have 6 x's and 4 x's. That's going to give me a positive 10x. Lastly, the minus 7, my constant. Oh, there's nothing I can combine it with, so that guy just drops down. Alright, guys, that is our final answer right there. Alright, let's move on to the next two. Now, again, I want you guys to try both of these, alright? So we're going to keep it very, very short. It's only 4. At the end of this, you should have 4 examples in total. So take a second, pause it, try these 2 problems, and then hit resume when you're ready to go. Alright, so here we go, guys. Let's start off by getting rid of our parentheses. So let's distribute that 1. What's 1 times negative 5x squared? Negative 5x squared. What is 1 times 2x? That's just going to be 2x. And of course, what's 1 times negative 3? Negative 3. Alright, now again, don't forget that is a minus 1 that I have to distribute in this case. Negative 1 times 6x squared is negative 6x squared. What's negative 1 times negative 3x? Careful there. Negative times a negative is a positive 3x. And lastly, negative 1 times a positive 2 is a negative 2. Alright, let me go and underline my terms here. Again, this is just all organization. This helps out a lot so we don't forget anything. Common mistake that people make is they accidentally forget to bring one of these guys down, or they might sometimes count one of these terms twice. So let's see. Let's start off with the highest degree. I have a x squared and I have an x squared. Again, it doesn't matter which one I throw in first. Negative 5x squared. Alright, so I had to answer the door real quick and I lost my place. So we had negative 5x squared, remember, standard form. Negative 6x squared. That's the next one. Any more x squareds? Nope. So let's move on to the x's. Well, I have a positive 2x. I also have a positive 3x over here on the right hand side. Now the last one is my constants, negative 3 and negative 2. Alright, let's go ahead and combine like terms here. I see x squares. These guys join together. Now be careful. Negative 5 and negative 6, my constants here. If you owe me $5, then you owe me $6. That means you're going to owe me 11. Alright, but it's going to be negative 11x squared. Here I have my constant, not constants, my coefficients of a 2 and a 3. Both of these are x's. So what's 2 plus 3? That's going to give me a plus 5x. Now lastly, on this one, same deal happens here. You owe me $3, then you owe me $2. Well, you're going to owe me money, so it's a negative. You're going to owe me $5. Alright, so that is our final answer. Alright, let's scoot over here to the right-hand side. Okay, so let's see. Did I select it? There we go. So, same thing. Let's get rid of these parentheses. Now, again, if you're getting used to these, right, the first one doesn't really matter if I distribute a 1. All of this is going to stay exactly the same, right? So again, when you multiply by a 1, all we're really doing is we're knocking off the parentheses. But it's still important to recognize, right, that there's a 1 there. Now, this one does matter. You can't just copy it right down. This is a negative 1. And again, you're multiplying by the coefficients or the constant. So what's negative 1 times 7? That's negative 7x to, now it's the third power. What's negative 1 times 5? That's going to be negative 5. What's negative 1 times negative 2x? Well, negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 2 is 2x. All right, awesome. Let's jump into writing it in standard form. Now, I have 1 term, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so there's 6 terms. What's the highest degree? I see that I have the third power over here, so I'm going to write this one down first, and it's a negative 7. So negative 7x to the third. Cross that off. What's the next biggest one? I see an x squared plus 5x squared. All right, notice I'm going from 3's to 2's to, well, the ones that just have x's. So I'm going to start off with the positive 10x, the positive 2x. Now, lastly, my constants here. And again, doesn't matter which one I throw first. Negative 5. Let's go with that one. And negative 4. Alright, so let's go ahead. Last one here. Combine like terms. X to the third. Can I combine that with an X squared? No. Those are not like terms because of the powers. That makes a big difference. So negative 7x to the third actually has nobody to combine with. So we simply drop that guy right down. What about the positive 5x squared? No other x squared. So actually that guy also comes right back down. Alright, I see here that I have x's, right? X, 10x, and 2x, so these are actually like terms. And I'm going to work with the coefficients. Again, just the numbers in front. What's positive 10 plus 2? That's going to give me 12 x's. Lastly, my constants back here. What's negative 5 minus 4? That's going to be negative 9. Alright, let me box in my answer, circle it. Alright guys, so there you have it. I should have 4 examples by the end of this in your notes. Alright, so you know the drill at this point. Here is your assignment. So again, we're still working with subtraction. Alright, still working with subtraction. Take your time. Binomial minus binomials. Trinomials. Oops, that's a binomial minus a trinomial. Trinomial minus trinomial. Alright, and the last one. Ooh, this one's crazy, right? 4 terms minus 4 terms. So poly minus a poly. Alright, be careful with that one. If you have to go in and, underline each one of your terms, right, so you don't accidentally miss one or forget one. Be careful with your negatives. If you need a calculator, go ahead and use it. I don't want that to be the reason why something messes up. Go ahead, use a calculator, right? Alright, you guys know the drill. Please make sure as soon as you finish this, write your name on that paper, tear it out of your notebook. This is done on a separate sheet of paper, and turn that into the inbox. Alright, guys. Have an amazing day. I will see you guys tomorrow.